Another team with a bye, coming off for its fourth win in a row. An impressive win for West Branch on Friday
Yeah.
at Dyersville Beckman. We got our answer to the question of how they were going to determine the district championship. They ended up splitting it, so there's that.
But West Branch got the bye, so.
Right. Yeah, so I'll take a share of the championship and get the bye. I think that they probably would take that any day of the week. But
yeah,
seems like West Branch after that West Liberty game really is, and Hirschman didn't play in the West Liberty game too, so that's something that we need to always make sure we mention because that's a huge factor. Not that they would have beaten West Liberty, but just looks like a team that's kind of West Branch team that's kind of gotten it going right now. How do you feel about this team heading into the playoffs? It looks like it's got a chance to make some noise.
I'm so high on all of our area teams, Rob. It's crazy. I really like you mentioned Gavin Hirschman, and we talked about this before. I saw him in Cascade. That was his first game back. He stood back there in the pocket, and they threw it a lot. The big stat from this game to me, and kudos to the West Branch guys, their stat crew, man. Full stat report in the email, like half an hour after the game. Shout out to those guys. They do it as well as anybody. I mean, like, they send you, like, the college box score. It's phenomenal. You got everything in there. Like, they can probably get me, like, some yards after contact, like, all this stuff. It's, like, it's great. But the reason I wanted to talk about them is that was a game I think we both talked about last week that I didn't know how that game was going to go. I thought that was a great litmus test for both those teams. When you're in the playoffs.
Right.
And West Branch was down 7-0, and then they're up 35-7. So, again, that was another one, 35-21 final. It was 35-7 into the fourth. So that's their best win of the year, hands down. That's a really good win for them because I think Beckman's a pretty good team. But I really like them. The stat from that game to me is Gavin Hirschman ran for like 80 yards, like 50. I think he had maybe 17 carries, 15 carries. That's huge for them. If he's in, and he's a great kid, really fun interview. Just really, thinks about what he's saying when he talks to you and stuff. But I talked to him early in the season. I went to a practice and he was riding the exercise bike. And I was like, "Is everything okay, man? Why are you riding the bike?" He's like, "Oh man, like they're so worried I'm going to get hurt. And he was like chomping at the bit to get out there and run over some scout team freshmen or something, but he was just like chomping at the bit to get out there. And it's like at those schools, he's playing some defense. You really do have to when you've got those difference makers, you got to kind of try to wrap them in bubble wrap a little bit because it makes it such a big difference when they're not out there. I think you saw that with them even when he was out there early. And I saw him against Wilton, and he was limping a little bit in the first quarter. He took a shot, and it, kind of told me that he was like, "Oh no, this kind of felt like week one again." And then it felt and then he was like, it just was kind of like Charlie horse, or it felt better later. But he's such a difference for them, not only when he's out there, but when he can run, Rob, because he's a really good athlete, and he's really, his dad's the offensive coordinator, and he kind of has that mind now. He'd never played quarterback until his junior year last year when he was their starting quarterback. And you can really see the game kind of slowing down for him now, where he's just making the right reads. He's reading what they're in, and he knows if he can scramble at this time, if they're in man coverage, he can turn and run for, 25 yards before the D-backs turn around. And he's just really picked up on a lot of that stuff. And so I think he saw some of that stuff early in the season, but was like, I don't want to get out and run right now, kind of weighing that risk reward factor. You see it a lot in the NFL with these guys that have played in college and they've always scrambled, and then they kind of realize. I don't know if you saw, they had Joe Burrow mic'd up last week, and he slid out of bounds, and he's walking back to the huddle with the defensive lineman, and he's like, "You guys aren't hitting me anymore, man." He's like, "I learned my lesson last week. Like, you guys aren't hitting me anymore." And it's kind of like that thing where he kind of was weighing that risk reward early in the season. Yeah. If he feels good enough to run 17, 18 times a game, and you saw it, I mean, he's productive. He had 80 some yards last week, or 79 yards. That's a game changer for them because it adds another element to their offense, because he's not just a guy that can do that. Like, he's a really good runner. I mean, he's a really good open field runner. He's one of the best athletes on the field in any 1A game. So that adds another element. And I was kind of waiting Coach Peterson and those guys, and Coach Hirschman, his dad, the offensive coordinator. They're probably saving that a little bit,
Right.
if he feels good enough to do it when they're going to break it out. So I think a fully healthy West Branch team. And then the other thing with them too is they broke in almost all new skill position guys around him.
Yep.
I mean, Kinnick and Carver Belk, two really nice like inside type receivers. They're sophomores. Simon Palmer's a senior. Out, I think, type receiver. And you have a lot of guys now that have played 7 games, 6 games with the same quarterback. There's some rhythm there. They hit some long passes in that Beckman game. And I think that, that can be a rhythm thing. And then they have a sophomore running back that's rushed for 170 yards the last 2 games. So again, a lot of new guys at the start of the year, and then you take a quarterback out or you limit what look a little bit different. Them a couple weeks ago, we're not groundbreaking anything here when we say, oh, West Branch is set up for a deep postseason run. It seems like they're always set up for a deep postseason run. This year, I think they flew a little bit more under the radar, with losing 2 games or losing a couple games early, but they could have a tussle in that second round if it plays out right. Mediapolis plays great football always, and I believe that would be their second round opponent. I think they're 5-2, assuming that they take care of business. But yeah, that would be a really good game.
Mediapolis gets 1-5 Van Buren.
Yeah.
Friday, so the winner.
And we can take a look at that down the road, assuming that matchup plays out. But they play good football. But I think West Branch, again, a fully healthy West Branch team. Everybody wants to play, especially in this shortened season. But this week off might come at a really good time for them. When you've won 4 in a row, you probably don't want to stop playing in some ways, but they can kind of maybe rework some of the things they want to do with some of those younger kids, having a little bit more confidence too. And we talked about it last week too, and I know you watched Jeff Bowie play before and everything. He can't the game plan. He had 2 sacks Friday. So he's just a guy that you can kind of turn loose on both sides of the ball, even as an offensive tackle, and he can be a huge difference maker at that level. So he's playing really good football too. And he's just one of those guys that he can change what you want to do offensively.
Yep. Yeah. And usually when you have 1A football and you've got a Power 5 guy playing on the lines, he's going to stand out. And Jeff.
He does too. He absolutely does.
Yeah.